I didn't get into my early screening for World War Z, but this movie's probably better anyways. Alright, this is my review for VHS 2 finally. Last year, VHS 1 came out, and it was my favorite horror movie of last year. I don't want to get into that discussion because I know a lot of you didn't feel the same way. But let's just put it this way, VHS 2 is probably better in some people's eyes, and it's a pretty damn good sequel no matter how you cut it. So the stories, let's get into them. First of all, you have your wraparound story called Tape 49, and I believe that was directed by one of the guys from the original movie. I'm not 100% sure of that, but the wraparound in this one kind of expands a little bit on the first movie. You find out slightly more about the process behind the tapes, and basically if you haven't seen VHS, what it is, it's an anthology, found footage anthology, but they're all like VHS tapes that people collect, and they're all a bunch of crazy horror stories. So the wraparound on this is slightly better. It's a slightly better story, a little more in-depth. And then we get to our first segment, which was called Clinical Trials, directed by Adam Wingard, and I believe he also stars in it. And it's pretty interesting. I don't want to go too much into it, but it involves ghosts and a guy that gets an eye implant. And there's a lot of jump scares, but it's okay because they have a lot of fun with it. They inject some humor. And they're legitimate scares. They catch. I was laughing because my wife was jumping. Then I found myself, I jumped once or twice. But they're jump scares. But at the same time, the story's really cool. Overall, it's probably the weakest one, though. But it's a great start to the film. The second segment is called A Ride in the Park. And it's directed by Eduardo Sanchez. And he was behind the original Blair Witch, a great movie called Altered. And last year he did Lovely Molly, which is another awesome horror movie. One of my favorites of last year. But he did A Ride in the Park for VHS 2. And it's basically a POV zombie story. And it sounds not that great, but it's probably the best segment. I have a feeling in the long run people are going to like this segment the best. A lot of humor. Kind of lighthearted, but at the same time a lot of gore and some pretty cool stuff. So our third segment after that is Safe Haven, and it's directed by Gareth Evans, and I hadn't seen The Raid Redemption. I want to, but I really want to now because Safe Haven, his segment in this, was basically shot like a miniature movie, really high quality, and it is like a film crew in the segment, so that's why you get your high quality camera, but it could have been expanded to a full movie, that story, and it is scary. Well, not scary to me, but I was talking to my friend's girlfriend today, and she had nightmares about it. It's creepy. There's some creepy imagery, to say the least. It's about a cult in, like, I don't know if it's, like, Thailand or whatever, but it's this crazy-ass cult, and all this madness happens. And at the end, they kind of zing you with a little humor on that one, which I kind of liked. And then our fourth segment is done by Jason Eisner, and you probably know him. He directed Hobo with a Shotgun, and he did the segment Young Buck on ABCs of Death. But, you know, he's a big up-and-comer. I'm sure a lot of people know his name. And he did and I don't want to ruin it, but it is listed on IMDb. It's called Alien Abduction Slumber Party. And so you get the gist. But that one is the shakiest of all of them. A little bit of funniness, kind of a little bit like Goonies meets Close Encounters. That's the best, what I was thinking when I saw it. But it's a great segment, and the effects on the aliens is awesome. It's pretty crazy. A lot of shakiness on that one, though. And overall, that is the most shaky ones. The middle ones are a lot more steadier. I'm sure a lot of people didn't like the first one because it was so jumpy, and they really cleaned up a lot of the footage for this one, which was great. It made it probably more enjoyable for the mainstream. I really don't give a shit. I like the story as long as the story's cool. But yeah, I mean, all the stories in this one are strong. If you didn't like the first one, at least give this one a chance. You didn't even have to see the first one. You can see this one. The only bad thing I will say is that, and I'll say it kind of with a caveat, is that this is kind of like a classic anthology. When I was watching, I was thinking of Creepshow, which is like, you know, probably like the standard anthology horror movie. And it's funny because Creepshow scared me when I was little, but now when I watch it, it's more of like a fun kind of scary movie. And not that it's scary, it's just a fun. And there is some creepy stuff if you think about it, but it's more fun. And then when I watched VHS 2, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I really wasn't scared at all. It's not scary, but there's some great gore. There's some really intense scenes. There's a lot of fun in it. And what else do you want from a horror movie? I don't know. You know, I'm old and I shouldn't probably be getting scared. And when a movie really scares me, it's rare. But, you know, this movie just wasn't scary. It's everything else that you want in a movie, but it wasn't that scary. But I'm going to go and give it a 4.5 out of 5, and you're like, oh, this guy's crazy. But literally, some of the best horror movies this year have been American Mary. I thought the Evil Dead remake was good. And this, I mean, this is probably the best horror movie. It's probably even better, in my opinion, than the Evil Dead remake. I know a lot of you guys didn't like that either, and you didn't like the first VHS, so you're not going to believe me on this. But If you didn't like the first VHS, give this one a chance. I think you're going to like it. If you've seen both movies, tell me what you thought the best segment was out of all the 6 or 8 segments or whatever they've had in the 2 movies now. And if you thought this one was better than the first one. I like the glitch killer in the first one. That was probably my favorite segment. On this one, I'm going to probably go with Jason Eisner's last segment. I thought that was the best. If you've seen them, let me know what you thought down below, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.